So what if I told you that a 3,000-year-old legal text holds a pretty radical blueprint for social justice, one that, believe it or not, still shapes our world today? We're going to dive into Leviticus chapter 19, which is often called the Holiness Code. And let me tell you, it's not just some dusty list of ancient rules. No, it's this incredibly detailed vision for building a community based on fairness, compassion, and a very specific idea of what it means to be good.
Okay, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the central command to be holy, and then we'll see how that big idea gets translated into justice for everyday life. From there, we'll get to its most famous line, love thy neighbor, and then we'll dig into some of the rules that might seem, well, a little strange to us today. We're going to wrap it all up with what is probably its most revolutionary idea, how to welcome the stranger.
You have to understand everything in this chapter flows from this one single command. This is the thesis statement, the ultimate why behind all the laws that follow. It's not just a case of do this because I said so. It's more like do this because it reflects a divine standard, because it makes you more like me. This really sets the stage for a code that's just as much about who you are as it is about what you do.
So, what does it actually mean to be holy? It's a word we throw around a lot, right? But its original meaning here is just fascinating. It's not about being super pious or perfect in some abstract way. It's about being distinct, different, set apart for a very specific purpose. And this chapter is going to define that purpose through really concrete, everyday actions.
And here's the key. Holiness is less about some mystical state of mind and way more about a practical, ethical commitment you make as a community. It's about organizing your society so that your values are visible in how you treat each other, how you run your businesses, and how you take care of the most vulnerable people. It's basically your identity, lived out loud for everyone to see.
So if you're supposed to be this set-apart people, what does that actually look like day to day? Well, the first big pillar is justice. And we're not talking about some grand philosophical concept of justice. We're talking about the nitty-gritty, mundane interactions that can make or break a community. The code gets incredibly specific here.
I mean, just look at the scope here. It's incredible. You've got rules for how to farm, making sure the poor can eat, rules for business ethics like paying your workers on time, rules for the courtroom, and even rules for basic human decency like respecting the elderly and people with disabilities. And these aren't just friendly suggestions, They are the foundational commands for this society.
Seeing the raw text really brings it home. This wasn't just a book of nice ideas. This was the law. It was designed to work as a real-world social safety net, making sure the poor wouldn't starve and workers couldn't be exploited. It's a whole system of fairness, baked right into the legal code. But buried right in the middle of this legal framework, we find the emotional heart of the entire chapter. And it might just be one of the most famous ethical commands in all of human history. This is the moment the code shifts from just a list of prohibitions to a powerful, positive vision for how we should relate to each other. Now, before we even get to the famous part, check this out. The law goes beyond just your actions. It reaches right into your thoughts and feelings. It's concerned not just with what you do, but with your inner attitude. It's not enough to simply not harm your neighbor. You are commanded not to even hate them in your heart. I mean, think about that for a second.
And here it is. This is the absolute peak of the code's vision. A command that is echoed through thousands of years, inspiring countless philosophies and religions. To love your neighbor as yourself. Wow. That implies such a radical act of empathy, seeing their well-being as completely inseparable from your own. This right here, this is the beating heart of what it means to be a holy community.
Okay, so alongside these incredibly profound laws, the code has some rules that to us might seem a little odd. We're talking about prohibitions on mixing fabrics, certain farming methods, and even getting tattoos. What on earth could that have to do with building a just society? It's a fair question, right? At first glance, these laws seem totally random, completely disconnected from the powerful social justice stuff we just looked at. But believe it or not, they are deeply connected to that central theme of being holy. So you've got these rules. Don't mix different types of seeds in a field, don't wear clothing made of both linen and wool, and don't engage in certain mourning rituals like cutting your skin or getting tattoos. The key thing to know here is that all of these were actually pretty common practices in the cultures that surrounded them at the time.
And that's the whole point. If holiness means being set apart, then these laws were the visible, everyday markers of that separation. They were all about creating a unique cultural identity. By avoiding the common practices of their neighbors, people were constantly reminded that they were different, not just in how they dressed or farmed, but in their core commitments to justice and compassion.
And this brings us to the final and maybe the most breathtaking step in the code. It takes that powerful principle of love thy neighbor and applies it in a way that was truly radical for the ancient world. It expands the circle of who you're responsible for way beyond your tribe, way beyond the familiar.
Just look at this side by side. It is incredible. The command for how to treat the stranger, the immigrant, the non-citizen, is an almost exact echo of the command to love your neighbor. The stranger is to be treated as if they were born in your community. You must love him as you love yourself. The boundary between us and them is just deliberately erased. And why? The reason the code gives is so powerful. It grounds this radical empathy in their own national memory. It's, "For you were strangers in the land of Egypt." This isn't just an abstract ideal. It's rooted in their own history of being vulnerable outsiders. It's a powerful command to remember what it feels like to be the stranger and to turn that memory into active compassion.
So we're left with this, a text that weaves together social welfare, business ethics, judicial fairness, and radical hospitality, all under this big idea of creating a holy or distinct community. And it forces us to ask, when we talk about building a just and compassionate society today, how much of our conversation is still an echo of this ancient blueprint?